Today, let's talk about war, unwilling citizens and willing governments. Don't you find it interesting that wars often don't start because the people want them, but because governments and leaders decide?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Why would the government want war, especially if the people don't?
There are historical reasons and economic motives involved. Let's first take a quick look at the history of war. Wars have existed since the beginning of human group formations. The earliest wars were tribal disputes, small-scale skirmishes over land or resources. As nations began to form, war became a way to show political power, expand territory, and pursue economic benefits.
So, it's all about money. Someone profits from war?
Exactly. War isn't just a violent conflict, its economic side is crucial. For example, during World War I and World War II, the production of weapons skyrocketed. This benefited the military-industrial complex, and many companies made huge profits. War has, at times, driven economies.
But if so many people die, why is money so important?
That's the dilemma. Especially in capitalist societies, economic gains can take precedence. Companies chase profits, and governments often act to sustain their economies. War boosts the military industry and related businesses, which in turn creates jobs and spurs economic growth. But this comes at the tragic cost of human lives.
So, wars are fought for money, and human lives come second?
Sadly, that's often the case, especially in conflicts between major powers. War can be a means of adjusting international power relations, but there are always economic reasons lurking behind. For instance, wars over oil or natural resources are frequently fought for economic gain.
But why do soldiers follow orders from the top, even if they don't want to? Do they have to do what they're told, no matter how bad it is?
That's a really important question. Soldiers are bound by duty to follow orders. This is because the military operates on a hierarchical system where top-down commands must be obeyed. When leaders like presidents or prime ministers give orders, for the sake of the nation, it's the soldiers' job to comply. Disobeying orders can result in court-martial.
But isn't that unfair? Orders come before personal beliefs.
Yes, it can seem unfair. In the military, for the sake of efficiency and unity, individual will is often subordinate to collective orders. If each soldier decided, "I don't want to do this," the organization would fall apart. So, following orders becomes the top priority. However, it doesn't mean those orders are always right. History shows us that blindly following orders has often led to tragedy.
I see. So, if the top decides to go to war, the soldiers have no choice but to follow.
Exactly. Sometimes leaders make decisions to go to war even if the people don't want it, often for political or economic reasons. But it's the ordinary soldiers who have to fight.
But most citizens don't really want war, do they?
That's right. Most people don't want war, they want peace. When war breaks out, families and friends are sent to the battlefield, and there's a risk of losing lives. So, the public is often against war. However, sometimes governments or leaders ignore the voice of the people and choose war anyway.
That's really contradictory. Governments are supposed to serve the people, but they don't listen to them.
Yes, it is contradictory. In a democracy, the government should represent the people's will, but in reality, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes leaders use war to maintain or expand their power.
It's hard to believe wars are fought just for power. Aren't there more important things?
Sadly, history shows that power struggles and economic gain have often been triggers for war. Take the Napoleonic Wars, the American Civil War, or World Wars I and II. Each had significant political and economic backgrounds. especially in World War II. Nazi Germany waged wars of aggression to expand power and territory.
So, does that mean wars could still happen today?
Unfortunately, yes, wars haven't ended, even today. We still have regional conflicts, civil wars, and the war on terror. Behind these conflicts, there are always economic interests and political power struggles.
It feels like money and power are valued more than human lives.
That's one of the big issues with capitalism. In a capitalist system, companies pursue profit, and economic growth is prioritized. And we can't ignore the profits generated by war. So, yes, it often seems like money is valued more than lives.
That's such a sad reality, but how can we change that?
To avoid war, it's important for citizens to raise their voices and continuously put pressure on governments to prioritize peace. International cooperation and dialogue should take precedence over war, and diplomacy or economic cooperation should be prioritized. Governments and businesses need to shift from focusing on short-term gains to pursuing long-term peace and stability. That's the key to a better future.
Yeah, it's important to think about what we can do for peace. Thanks, good. That was really easy to understand.